So welcome everyone, thank you for joining. You're joined today by myself, Rebecca Mottram. I'm the industry stakeholder and governance lead under the performance assurance team, and also we've got Andrew Waghorn here as well. He's our analytics director. So the purpose of this session today is to really talk you through, well, really take any questions you have in relation to EES and ERDS SLA reporting. So you'll be aware that we sent out a communication at the end of Friday, which was aimed at providing a bit more clarification on some questions we were getting in terms of mean and 90th quartiles, but also to finalise some of the reporting templates as well. We did request some questions to be sent through, but we haven't received any. So we're aiming to really hold this session as quite an informal conversation for you to really raise any questions or comments that you have following our communication on these two SLA reports. We are recording this session as well, so we're going to include this recording on the REC portal, just so wider stakeholders have visibility of our discussions today if they weren't able to join today. So that's all we wanted to really cover. I see Rob's also joined as well. Rob is our analytics analyst and he's been working really closely on our SLA reporting as well. So hi Rob. In terms of how we want to do this, if you've got any questions, then feel free to come off mute and ask us them verbally, or just raise your hand and we'll come to you. You can also drop them in the chat box as well if that's easiest, whatever works for you. So open to questions if anyone has anything they want to ask us. Who wants to start?
Thanks, Graham.
Go on, I'll start because nobody else will say anything unless somebody asks a question to start with. So I'll start. Can I just check, and it's only a minor point, but the template that you sent out, and it applies to both the EES one and to the ERDS one as well. Are you looking for those templates to be used exactly as you've sent them out, i.e. with all the columns in? And because it's got columns like service provider, service definition section and such like. Are you looking for that to be completely replicated in the submission that's put onto the REC portal, or are you just looking for something that gives you, I don't know, the measure number, so 731 for example, and the value that's against it? Because on each of those you've got the expected performance level and then the actual value. I just want to be clear what it is we're supposed to be actually submitting.
Yes, I can take that one. We would ideally like the template to come back sort of exactly as it is as we sent it out to you. So every single one of those fields is relevant to the stuff we're doing with the files sort of on our end in the analytics process.
As in, you mean the columns, Rob?
Yes,
so you want
exactly.
The service provider column, the service definition column.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. All right, that's right. It was just so I know what to replicate.
Yeah, and obviously if we can stick to the format, just because then obviously it means we can kind of put them all into the machine and sort of drop them through, if you like, rather than having to manually kind of handball anything. So that would be ideal. I think that probably the one point that's worth just confirming, and Rob, give me a virtual kick under the table if I say this incorrectly, is we've obviously sent them out as Excel files just because you're reading them as a human, but the actual submissions to us should be a CSV file, not an Excel file, please.
Okay.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
I think it says that in the park, but you might not have read across to the park, so it occurs to me it's worth just confirming that.
Probably not. Good assumption.
Yeah. You lose track sometimes of how many conversations you've had about these things. So.
And just some more interest. So on the ERDS template, column A says service provider and it says DNO in it. Is that meant to be the submitting MPID that's in that column, or all the letters DNO? How are you going to distinguish from one party to another?
we would like the party name in that column. So you'd replace
But
the
the
DNO with whoever is submitting.
But the MPID, just to be clear, the MPID that you want.
We can use the MPID, yeah.
Well, the MPID is going to be the only thing that's going to differentiate between.
Yeah, well, it's either going to be the MPID or it's going to be the party name as they are defined on the party register. But yeah, if MPID is easier, then MPID is fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
No, thank you.
My hand down.
Yeah, that's great.
Anyone else?
Well, I'll ask one more because I know.
Feel free. Yeah,
one of my colleagues is on the call was going to ask it, but on the EES, and I guess actually fair, it applies to the ERDS one as well.
Yeah.
The measures that are now they're sort of 711 to 714 and 811 to 814. They were originally, well, they're specified as decimal, but now essentially, presumably, they're essentially a true false flag, aren't they?
Yeah, these are the
this is the gate closure measures.
Yeah.
Where now it's either meet it or not meet it. So do you still want that as a decimal, or a 1 or a 0, or do you just want it as a true or a false?
I think we certainly want it as a 1 or a 0.
Yeah.
Clearly,
right.
I mean, you can essentially provide it as an integer. You know, we're not going to worry if there's no decimal points after it, if you see what I mean. In that sense.
It's just that ultimately these are going to be spat out by a repeat. No. We just need to know what to define it as. So
so taking it as a 1 or a 0, please. Yeah.
Okay.
That's exactly what I was going to do, Graham, just to jump in there. That's exactly how I've done it.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are no decimals.
Cool. Okay, that answers.
That's good.
I'll go myself. Unrelated to the template, it seems to me that there's a REC change proposal that is considering penalties for ERDS not meeting targets on SLAs, but I don't think it's moved in the recent few months. So that gives us no visibility as to what kind of risk we entail for not delivering on those SLAs. Do you have any visibility on that, please?
Yes, I do. So that change is currently on hold because there's another element to it which relates to the DCC, and there's ongoing conversations between RECO and Ofgem on some principles underneath that. So at the moment it's still on hold. There was meant to be a consultation this month, but it's been pushed back a couple of months. So we're just waiting for the RECO and Ofgem to conclude their conversations before that kicks off again, really. But the next stage is a consultation, which should be in the next few months.
Which change was that, sorry?
This is the performance charge one. I'd have to go and double
25
check.
service.
25
charges. Yeah. Thank you.
There you go. Conscious I've got another hand's gone up, Adrian.
Hi there. Yes, just on being a bit of a pedant, on 811 to 814.
Yeah.
The word to is replicated, TO, inside the brackets relating to two secured switches at gate.
Yes, there is. Yeah.
We've amended that to take that out.
Fine. Yeah.
And on 815 to 818, you have the word were, and I think you mean the word where.
You know what? I pointed that out to Rob earlier on, actually.
Yeah, we spotted that last night, so we've amended that on our side.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, that's all.
No worries. Just back to sorry, Adrian, was that you still got your hand up? I wasn't sure if you had another question.
No, that was it. I'll take my hand down.
No, that's fine. I just didn't want to jump in and think and sort of come across there. Just going back to the previous question, which I think was that Anne Claire, I think, asked that around the CR.
Yeah.
And you were sort of saying, I guess there was a sort of wider question there, which is, what happens if we don't meet the SLA? Of which obviously performance charge might be one element. It's maybe just worth, I guess, talking about in more general terms, and you might have heard me or somebody else say this before, but If you have, apologies. Hopefully I'm going to be consistent, but really with anything we're looking at in terms of performance assurance under the REC, whether it's SLAs, whether it's kind of party performance in regards to kind of other activities that are also in scope, regard to broader switching or PSR or whatever it might be. If we if we see something, particularly in something that we can monitor to a certain degree through data like we can here, i.e. the data you're providing us with, where kind of there's a potential challenge, a potential issue. So for example, somebody's not meeting SLA, our first port of call pretty much always is essentially what we want to do is then make sure we've understood kind of what's driving that, what's the cause, any context that's relevant, which basically means we'll typically come and talk to the relevant party or parties and say, okay, we've seen this in the data. Obviously you'll know because you've given us the data, so you can kind of anticipate that we might do that. We want to understand a little bit more about what's going on, and I guess that's particularly relevant here for some of these SLAs where there's obviously interdependencies between, obviously, particularly DCC and yourselves. And I don't think I'd be giving away a state secret if I talked to DCC, they say, oh, what happens if kind of EES or ERDS or obviously some of the other services miss their SLA, and obviously when I speak to kind of people on this side and others, sort of the question is always, what happens if DCC doesn't meet their SLA? So particularly there are some scenarios where one person missing might cause another to miss. So obviously one of the questions we need to work out is what's the causal factor, and what's the kind of what's the sort of the further impacts that have occurred that are sort of through no fault of the particular service provider or whatever it might be. So I guess just to sort of reassure, it's not a it's not in the first instance a sort of if we use the monopoly analogy, go direct to jail, do not pass go, do not pay £200 type thing. It's much more of a, okay, we can see something here, we want to understand what's going on. Obviously then depending on what we understand, obviously we might then need to take further action, but I guess hopefully to reassure you that it's this obviously is a way of us gathering the data and having a view, but we understand there's sometimes context that we also need to understand when the data shows something. So we'd obviously then come talk to the relevant party to find out what that context is. I hope that's helpful just to have that context.
No, it is. Thank you. Since nobody's asking questions, I'll ask another one. It's
Please.
A very practical one, if that's okay.
Yeah.
We will enter an agreement whereby the adapter service will submit those metrics for us to the portal. But I didn't know how does it work practically speaking? Do they log into their own logging and submit the file in our name, and then that's transferred somehow into what we can see when we log into our own version of the portal?
So as things work at the moment, each party has its own sort of performance assurance folder, if you like, on the portal. And as obviously as the code manager, we can kind of sweep the data from all of those to obviously the analysis we're doing. But as a party, you obviously get your one. You can have as a user in the portal access to more than one of those organizations is the term that's used in the portal. So in theory, for example, and some parties have this where, for example, they've got multiple licenses or maybe multiple roles in the market already, depending on the way they've set themselves up. So an individual can have multiple organizations, and when you go into that page on the portal, it says, well, today, who are you being type thing. So there is a scenario whereby you could provision, so your MAU could provision basically the access for that adapter provider to upload, if you like, on your behalf. So they're sort of one of your users, if you like, in the sense that they have access to your area. So you can do that.
Do I need to take an action for that?
Well, I think you would need to. So they would need to have portal access, the service provider. also the adapter provider, and then your MAU, so the master admin user for your particular organisation, can then give them access to be able to upload data. If they need some help doing that, the best thing to do is just to go to the portal help desk. So because I'm much more accomplished in doing that than I ever will be. But you know, basically they can provision a user in against that you know, against that particular folder. I think there is a sort of a little bit of an open question mark or a conversation potentially to have, where obviously there's, you know, I don't think I'm giving away any state secrets, where there's obviously some common providers across many, and so whether there is an alternative way of doing that given volumes. I don't think there's a as currently set up way of doing that in a different way, but I believe there are some conversations going on to see whether there is a better option. If you like, if somebody's doing 10 or 15 or 20 uploads, then obviously finding a better way of doing that is probably going to be helpful. Graham,
can I just come in there, because I think we need to sort of explain this. So I would add, this is still currently under discussion, I agree. However, the current position on this is that the only really workable solution that there appears to be is that at the, you know, we produce the report where, you know, where it's relevant for people we support. We produce the report, send it to those parties, and then they upload it to their own area on the portal. Because the current discussions, and certainly my feeling is, it's not appropriate for us to have access to every party's portal. There may well be information on there that is not appropriate for us to see, and us uploading everything to our own portal again is not an appropriate solution. So the current working assumption that we have is that we will generate the report, send it to each individual party, and then they upload it to their own portal.
It's Gemma from Western Power. I will jump on and echo that. That is definitely our views, that Graham would be passing us the reports and it's for us to upload, because it wouldn't be appropriate for them to have access to the PAB section on the portal, because you can't spit it out as lessons.
No.
And a really stupid question, which I'm sure Graham already knows the answer, but I'm not meeting him until after this call. And I'm playing catch up, so apologies if it's in the emails that I haven't got around to reading fully yet. So we've had a couple of spreadsheets through. One is the ERDS SLA reporting, and that's the template that we have to upload. And then the SLA calculation example is an example of what you're going to do with it afterwards to see if we're within our SLAs, or are you wanting like both filled out?
So the example, you don't need to give us the example back, but the example is to fill out the template, you'll have had to work out the example essentially. So you report to us, you either met or you didn't meet the SLA, but because, and let's be very open here, there is, you know, it has become super clear as these and other similar conversations have been going on over the last couple of months or so, if not a bit longer, that sort of some of the SLA wording in parts of the service definitions, you know, you read it through and you go, yeah, that's fine. And then when you read it and actually try and really do it, it's actually, that could probably be clarified better. So we're in a situation now where obviously, you know, I mean, the baseline is kind of locked in at this stage for something like that. So we're sort of working with what's there. I think we probably will move forward a change to try and just clarify the language. So not seeking to change what's being done, but really just to try and make it so it's clearer for everybody, because certainly I've read it and then had a meeting with somebody and gone, oh yeah, that's what it means. Then had another meeting and gone, oh no, maybe that's not what it meant. And I'm sure others on this call have gone through that journey similarly. So the purpose of the example was just to try and be really explicit about, you know, kind of how we saw that working and the sort of proposed approach we had there. So I hope that helps answer the question.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
No, that's fine. And just on that point, and again, not I don't want to say this in a way that sort of sets the wrong hairs running, so please don't take it in that way. But as I say, we think there's probably some language tweaks that would benefit just from being clearer about what's meant in certain places, and then kind of longer term, so certainly past ELS, once we actually start to see the whole new kind of services start to I guess mesh together and work in real life. There's probably then going to be some value in actually stepping back and saying, are the service levels that have been measured the right service levels for for the service as is being delivered now. I think a lot of this drafting was written kind of 3-4 years ago, and obviously clearly the programs have run through over that time, and things evolve, because really what we want to make sure is that the service levels that are being measured are the ones that matter to the service users and ultimately to customers, and also aren't overly measuring in the opposite direction. So as a service provider, there's no point holding you to a standard for something if it doesn't matter to the service user, if you see what I mean, because you're obviously spending time, money, effort, resource to achieve that service level, and if it's not needed, why do that? So I think there probably will be a longer term, okay, actually now we've seen it all kind of come together. Are these all the right service levels to be monitoring? But obviously, that's longer term, and clearly that will go through the full consultation and change process that you'll be aware of under the REC. So nothing will appear overnight or anything like that, but just to sort of say, if some of these you look at and you go, does that mean something to me, or is that the right thing to be measuring? I think there'll be an opportunity to get views on that. But hopefully that answered the original question, John. Just back to this point around uploading, and I think the point that Graham, you raised, and others as well, just in terms of how that's going to work. So I think in the short term, as you say, Graham, that seems to be the option that sort of fits the best, shall we say, in terms of you don't want access to everybody's full area, as was raised there, and sort of therefore that's the route forward. I think that there is definitely value in exploring whether there is a mechanism by which there is almost a sort of an agent acting on behalf of many type approach that would allow you to upload but not have that wider access. And I think there are some other use cases for that as well. So it's definitely not to say that isn't something that could come, but I suspect it won't come for the first submission in August. So in the short term, it's best to plan on the basis that you outlined.
Yeah, we're more than happy to look at better options going forward. But I think given where we are, you're right, exactly, given where we are now and everything else that's got to be done. Yeah, there are probably
other priorities, to be honest, in the development rather notwithstanding that it would be a good idea, I think, in the short term. So
exactly that. Really, it's one step at a time.
Indeed, no, absolutely.
Anyone else have any questions? Take it that everyone's very happy then with their submissions in the next month or so.
Actually, just one I was going to ask, and I might as well. I probably know the answer, but the first submission is clearly it's only going to be, well, that's very true. Is it only to cover the period from the 18th of July to there, even though, so fine. So the number of days you're expecting to be reported on is 13 or 14, where I can't work it out in the moment, but yeah, that one, rather than a full month, because we clearly are receiving messages at the moment.
Yes.
And we will do for the rest of July, just to not the full set.
Yes. No, so for the purposes of performance assurance, obviously it's only once go live has occurred that
okay. So the first report is from the 18th of July to the 31st of July.
Yeah, it's good clarification, Graham. Yeah.
Okay.
And then obviously thereafter it's.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. And sorry, I think there might have been somebody else that was going to come in as well. Maybe not. I thought I had somebody else.
Yes, hi. It's Lily here. I'm just wondering if you can have a session of go through the workings.
Sure. In terms of the which particular measure was that? The worked example?
Yeah, like the 711 to 714 and and then the next bunch of the calculation.
Yeah, sure. We can certainly do that. We can do that. We can do that now. I mean, we can use some time now to do that. Just before we do, because there might be some people who say, I was told there'd be no maths, sort of wants to drop away. So just before we do that, if anybody else has any other questions that are more kind of at the kind of the definitional level, quickly throw your hand up now. If not, we'll just literally walk through. And obviously, if people want to drop away, if they don't want that level of detail, obviously you're welcome to. As Rebecca says, it is going to be recorded. Obviously, if people want to stay, again, you're welcome to stay on. So I'll just pause for 20 seconds just in case there's anybody who wants to be like, I want to get a final question in, but I don't want to watch the worked example.
I'll do both. I'll jump in with a question, but I am going to hang around for the worked example.
All right.
It's a question that I've asked. Also with regards to the maintenance qualification. So obviously Western Power, I've got 4 MPIDs. I'm technically a DNO and a ERDA and various roles. So when I go into the portal, I've got Western Power Distribution as an organisation. I've then got Western Power, EMEB, MIDI, Southwest, South Wales. I've also then got EMEB-R, MIDI-R, and I'm trying to get confirmation of where I'm meant to upload all the different things. Okay. So it would be good. I appreciate the maintenance qualification is slightly different because you can do that as an organisation and do grouping. 1 versus 4, but I need to know where to put that. But also then just confirmation of whether it's the Western Power East Midlands or the EMEB-R that I would put in my East Midlands. SLA
and I won't try and answer that live just because I don't want to. I probably just want to just go in and check the orgs myself and just get my head straight on that one. But if we come back to you on it, offline on that, Gemma, if that's okay.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, but certainly have to do that. I see Rob's taking the action because he knows I'm going to give it in. Thanks, Rob. Rob, have you got the spreadsheets open? Do you want to share your screen, maybe, if Rebecca's given up the share? So it's probably worth starting with the actual template, I guess, is it, and then moving to the example.
Yeah, that as well.
So I think really, so maybe if I do a sort of top level, and then Rob, I might hand over to you for some of the detail. So I guess if we look at 711 through 714, so really there's kind of 2 measurements being done there, and obviously you're bifurcating it between, whether it's an average day, so that's everything from nothing happens whatsoever, all the way up to the average, the threshold, or whether it's a peak day, so above that average threshold but below the peak, or obviously you could be over the peak, but obviously if you're over the peak, then if you like, all bets are off from an SLA point of view. So effectively there's 2 things to work out, the mean and the 90th percentile. So what we're effectively doing is saying, okay, there's the gate starts, and that starts when you receive your first message from CSS. Just as an FYI, because people ask me this, for CSS they have a very similar measure, but their gate or their measure always starts at 5 PM no matter what. So if they're late sending, they're immediately obviously on the potential hook for that, depending on how late they are. So your start point is when you get the first message. Your end point is when do I send my last acknowledgement, which may or may not be the acknowledgement of the last message you received, because you might obviously be parallel responding to different things. So, you know, we don't necessarily want to assume it's kind of first in, first out. Work that out as a time window, so that for any given day means you know how long basically your gate took, if I can phrase it like that. Over the period of the days in the month that it's relevant for, you can then obviously work out a mean of that. We'll step through the example in a sec, and you can obviously work out a 90th percentile of that. And those are the two measures you need to measure, or the two metrics, I guess, you need to measure. And then you need to compare that to the SLA and then tell us either I met the SLA or I didn't meet the SLA. And then it really just breaks out between, is it the average and below days, or is it the peak days? So that would be my kind of, I suppose, about 5,000 foot level version. I don't know, Rob, whether you want to go through the actual worked example as well, if that's helpful for people. By the way, shout up if at any point we're going too quick or too slow.
I can step into the detail if people find that helpful, I suppose. I guess the first thing to do, I guess, would be clear up the clarifications around message volume. So we assign days based on the number of secured active messages we receive for gate closure within the whole gate closure period. And those are used for sort of measured against the demand volumes. If you have 0 messages, we're counting it as an average day. So for example, this third day in our spreadsheet, we are taking it as no messages, but because 0 is still below the average volume, we're using it still in the average days. So it'll feed into the mean calculation in the 90th percentile for that. I think it's worth clarifying as well, we expect secured active and secured inactive messages to be covered under this. So we count both in terms of the messages that you're responding to within the gate closure period. The way we work out the averages, essentially, as Andrew already said, we assign the days based on their message volumes. We work out the total gate closure time for each day. And then it's just a simple mean over the reporting month for the various qualifying volumes. So the average mean in this example, we've got 25 days average here. We just take the average time for 25 days based on their total gate closure time. We do the same thing for peak. And then above peak, we don't count the reporting, we essentially get a free pass if it's above the peak demand volume. So there's no SLA here for it to meet. So in the example, the 25 days, we have 17 minutes, 34 seconds is the average response time. The mean SLA is 20 minutes, so that's lower than the 20 minutes, so you pass the SLA. Is that clear so far? And I'll move on to the 90th percentile. I'll take that as a yes. For the 90th percentile, we essentially taking...
Rob, one sec, this popped out.
Sorry, I couldn't see a hand.
Oh, that's right.
Hello. My question is this table from cell A1 to E31, is it something that we will receive?
Not from us, because this is about your response times to messages. So
this is part of the working.
You need to, yeah. So this is. I mean, you can work this out. You don't have to do it in Excel, obviously. This is just to make sure that we've been sort of clear on the calculation, if you like. But you will need to be measuring, obviously, when the first message hits you each day. When you send your response to the last one, that should allow you then to calculate column E, and your volumes will allow you to calculate column B. Only you or your adapter provider or whatever have access to that information. We certainly don't. So then each month you'll kind of collate this information. We don't, by the way, we don't need you to send us this table. Yeah, so we're not asking you for you to send us this example. This is purely just trying to make sure that we've been as explicit as we can be about the calculation, just because there was a lot of confusion, I think, in this space. The end result of you working all this out will basically tell you I was either compliant or not compliant with the SLA, and therefore that's what goes in the reporting template. Does that clarify?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have a screenshot of the raw message that we'll be receiving?
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Andrew,
Graham,
let me just jump
come
in.
in there. Yeah.
Lily, this is what the output that you're looking at here is when we had the call the other day, we talked through what we will give you on a daily basis. You can use it to derive this data. What Andrew and Rob are showing here is how you need to translate the raw data that you get into the set that needs to be used for reporting. So it will be our responsibility as an adapter provider to send you the raw daily usage stats that you can use to then derive this output.
Okay. So just to be very clear, so in order to calculate column E, yeah, well, basically that is just column D minus C, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah. That's literally.
And column C and column D would be provided by the adapter.
If that's the approach you're taking, but I think that's true for most people, isn't it? So.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Does that help? Yeah. Thanks.
Okay.
If you're up.
I will move on to the 90th percentiles. So we'll stick with the average. Essentially, we're continuing using the total gate closure time, which, as I said, is essentially column D minus column C. And we're going to rank every day for the average days by their response time from the shortest to the longest. So you can see here the day with no messages, 0 response time is rank 1 because it's the quickest. Whereas down here, this is day 28, 29 minutes and 40 seconds is the longest day in terms of the total response time. We then find the 90th percentile reporting day. And we do that essentially by taking, well, yeah, the 90th percentile of the days we have here. And the 90th percentile will be rounded to be the closest reporting day. So if in any example, for example, the peak days, that we have essentially 5 days at peak, we're looking at them being rounded up to the total day. So it'll be the 5th day. It wouldn't be counted as an individual day, if that makes sense. Oh, sorry, not an individual day. It wouldn't be counted as a decimalized percentage. There'll be no interpolation inside the figures. We take only one rounding day. So for this example, for the 25 days at average, we'll be working on the 23rd day, is the closest day to the 90th percentile. So based on that, we'd have a response time of 21 minutes and 30 seconds. And we then compare that to the 90th percentile SLA, which is 25 minutes for average. And obviously that's passed because it's lower than the 25th or 25 minutes. Apart from my slightly garbled middle there, does that make sense to everybody?
I think you've lost me on your peak one. So your average, you've ranked them all there, and this is going really back to basics because I hate the word percentile, so it throws me. So I've got 25 days divided by 100 times it by 90 is 22.5. So I'm rounding that up to the 23rd day.
That's right.
The 23rd ranking is 20 minutes. My SLA is 25 minutes. Happy days.
So, happy days. Yeah.
And the peak.
Same concept. It's just a small number of days, so you might end up the 5th day being the rounded.
But the math is the same.
Same math.
Just do the same thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you.
No, that's all right. Yeah, it's problem obviously with having 90 or less than 100 observable points is you're always going to have to do a bit of interpolate or a bit of rounding, if you like, on the number. So I see another hand's gone up. Sunir, if that's the right pronunciation, apologies if not.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you. So just a question on the values actually. So you're basically saying that it's either yes or no, the past SLA based on the comparison. But in the spec, in the SLA specification, it says that the value is a decimal, the metric type is a decimal. So how that's going
correct.
to be?
That's correct. So it's a decimal because, and again, not revealing any unstate secrets here, I guess. There's been some evolution around this because of this clarity point in the REC, and at one point there was a view around whether this could be measured daily, and we've ended up on this definition as being what we felt was a simple, relatively simple approach that people could follow. and sort of complied with, gave us a meaningful measure and gave us something that complied with the REC. But originally we were trying to work through a method where we might have been able to almost say, rather than you did or didn't for the month, almost like every day, how did you do, and then how many days in the month did you perform on? So we've left it as a decimal, but in this case, you'll essentially either end up with a 1 or a 0. Those are your only two options in terms of the actual SLA, because the output of these calculations will be, you'll have a mean number, which you compare to, I think, is it 20 minutes? You'll have a 90th percentile, which you compare to 25 for your average and below. And then the same for peak, and I'll forget the numbers now, but I think is it 30 and 35 or 35 and 40. So if you go back to the other template, Rob, also not the other template, if you go back to the template, I should say, then the result of doing that information will be that you'll have, for example, for 7.1.1, you'll have whatever that mean was for all those days that were at or below average. As I think, Gemma, you said, you know, your SLA is 20. As long as you're under 20, then the answer is 1. If it's, excuse me, if it's over 20, your answer is going to be 0. Now, if you are over, if you report a 0, we probably will come and follow up and say, can you tell us, you know, what the number was? But at this stage, we've tried to keep the reporting quite simple.
Okay. So it's going to be like either it's like a binary, like either
exactly
1 or 0.
Right. Yeah. You can only you're only making one measurement, which is the mean over the month, and therefore, you know, there's only one evaluation you can make on that. You're either over 20 minutes or you weren't over 20 minutes. So
okay, yeah.
Since you've only got two.
No, that makes sense.
Choose from. Yeah.
Sorry, so just to clarify then. So for 7.1.1. where I've done your calculations and I've got 17 minutes, so I'm under 20.
Yeah.
I put 1 in the performance level.
You do, correct. Yeah, because you have met so it's essentially like 100% or yes, if you want to think about it. Yeah.
And then do I need to put anything in the value column
then? If you just scroll across, sorry, Rob. Let me just, sorry, I beg your pardon, actually. I think you should populate the value column. The performance column is the target, if you like, and then the value column is your answer. So you would put 1 in that last column there.
Okay, so the performance level is the NFR emails that you've sent me saying what I have to hit.
That's right.
And then I say yes or no in the value column.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry for all the stupid questions.
No,
it saves hundreds of emails.
Like, none of them are stupid questions. Let's be very clear here, right? You know, it's the exact point of this session was to answer these sorts of things, right? So yeah, you know, there is no such thing as a silly question, as they say. Another hand from Graham.
Yeah, just one point I think it is worthwhile just making people clear of, because it's been asked about me a number of times. Rob, can you, or whoever's got control of the screen, can you scroll down to the bottom measure, the one that talks about BCDR events?
Yeah, this one here.
So that one there, so 7.4, just to be, I just wanted to verify, and for everybody to hear on the call as well, that all the rest of those measures there, all of them are essentially referring to availability and performance of the adapter. But 7.4 is one where you wanted that to include both adapter and MPRS system, wasn't it? Right. So if an individual party had, even though the adapter might have been available 100% of the time, if the individual party had a BCDR event with their MPRS system, you would expect that to be reported in this.
That's correct.
In this row?
In this row, yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
So just to, I think it's
just thanks, Graham. That's good clarification. Yeah. And the other point I will point out while we're down at this bottom end of the list is that final free text comments does give you an opportunity, if you know there's something, you know, in the numbers that we're immediately going to ask you about, and you want to provide the information sort of up front, if you like. So for example, say you've missed an SLA on something, you do have that ability just to provide us with that narrative commentary there. So if you like, if you want to get you know, kind of get some information across, you've got that option. So I mean, clearly you can talk to us as well, but you know, just that field is there, you know, for that sort of thing as well. Does that, so going back to who was it who was asking for the walkthrough originally? I can't remember now, but apologies. Does that help in terms of the calculation?
I didn't ask, but it certainly helped me.
Okay, good. Well, maybe it was Lily then, I think. Sorry, I can't remember.
Oh, yes, helpful. Thank you.
No worries. Thanks very much. Cool.
And I'm just reading 7.4 now, and it might just be because I'm frazzled with lots of other stuff going on.
No, sure.
So there's obviously, I appreciate that it's the MPRS and the adapter.
Yeah.
But I can't understand what it is that you're asking for, because it's the number of instances. What number of instances was the maximum recovery time greater than 8 hours?
So
if we've had a BCDR.
Yeah, and you recovered within 8 hours, then you're fine.
Regardless of, let's say we've had more than one in a month, as long as it's under 8 hours, it's fine. So in there, it's just how many BCDR instances have we had that have taken 8 hours to recover?
That's correct. Yeah.
Or more, sorry.
Or more. Yeah. So there's kind of 3 scenarios, I guess, or 3 or 4 scenarios. You've had no events in the month, so that's fine. There were no instances where the recovery was over 8 hours because you haven't had any. You've had some, but they were all done, within an hour. So again, the answers are still 0 because you've got them all done in well within the SLA. You've had some that you did within the SLA, but maybe one that you didn't. Sorry, what's a little fruit fly that seems to be attracted to me today. Therefore you need to report the one that was the problem, or you've had just one, but it went over the 8 hours. So again, you still report the one there. So, and
just again spelling it out for me.
Yeah.
And how am I reporting that? What am I putting in each column? Have I got an NFR for that?
So
not, because it should be none.
Because
it's an 8 hour limit.
So you're reporting over on the right hand side. It's always in that value column. You're literally reporting the number of instances. So I would imagine most of the time, most people will be reporting 0 because either they've had no instances or they've your NFR is essentially the 8 hour recovery time. So when you have a BCDR event, meeting obviously the definitions as defined in the service schedule as to what constitutes a BCDR event, your RTO needs to be 8 hours as long as it is. You're within SLA.
So the performance level is in as 0 because there shouldn't be any.
Yeah.
And then I would just put in the value how many I've had.
How many you've had
that have gone above 8 hours.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
That's all right. No worries.
I appreciate you humouring me.
Not at all. Seriously, as I say, this is exactly what we wanted to do on this call. Is like these. It's, as I say, it's only when you come to do these things that you go, oh, hang on a second. I thought, I read that and it all seemed fine, and then I've actually come to do it, and you go, oh, hang on a minute. Do I know what was meant here? So absolutely, perfectly sorts of questions.
And you tell I'm reading it as we go.
No, you're good.
Apologies for not having done this in advance and sent you all the questions in advance.
Honestly, it's absolutely fine. The other thing that's worth mentioning, just while if and others might read through as well, is those ones with the NAs on it there that you can see on the screen that Rob's sharing is what we're just also asking you to tell us is just basically the number of days that fall into each of those categories for some of those earlier measures that we spoke about. So, you're telling us, yeah, we were over or under on average, we were over or under on sort of, below peak. And then obviously there is no SLA above peak. And we're just saying, well, actually, and how did the month go? Like, was it all at peak? In which case, the fact you met them for the other days is kind of a bit meaningless, or, is it that most days were below average? So that's kind of the SLA that's more important in a way. So that's the purpose of collecting that information.
Can I ask another question?
Sure.
For questions 721 to 724. Which is relating to the hourly volume. So I presume that the raw data we get is we got for each hour, and obviously it's selective hours that we are concerned about. But when we do the mean response time, say for example, so basically we pick out all those hours that is relevant and then put in the spreadsheet to work out the mean. Is that right? So we don't work out a daily mean.
No, it's in this case,
a monthly.
And that's why this one you can therefore report a decimal that will be not just 1 or 0, because obviously you might be hitting it kind of 23 out of 24 hours, but 1 you don't, and therefore that's whatever that works out as a decimal. Bad example maybe, but I guess it'd be just over 0.04, I guess. yes, you're measuring that. I can't talk to the raw data. But Graham might come in there. I don't know. Sorry to put you on the spot there, Graham. But yes, essentially that similar idea. Every hour is either average, below peak or above peak. Above peak, obviously, you kind of ignore, and then the other two, you're just working out the mean response time and the 90th percentile response time.
Yeah, across the month.
Yeah. So essentially, yeah. So say let's just sort of say everything was average or below. Yeah. And let's take, I don't know, let's take a 30-day, a 30-day month, if you like. So that's got 720 hours in it. 24 hours at 30. So you would be measuring the mean for every one of those, and each hour you either met the SLA or you didn't, and then you just work that out as a fraction, basically. So, and express that in a decimal form. So, if you missed it 72 of the 720 hours, then obviously that's 1 in 10. So you would say, well, I met it 0.9 at the time because I missed it 0.1 at the time.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Sunil, I think you put your hand up and then it dropped off, so I don't know if it was the same question.
Yeah, it's the same question actually. Yeah, I just realized that it's not going to be the same one actually, same as the 7.1. No, yeah. Thank you.
So 7.2 just it's sort of easier. Sorry, go on. Yeah.
No, just another question, because it is decimal. Is there till what point do you need to round off? Is there any requirement to round off to a particular decimal point?
I don't think we've specified that actually, have we, Rob?
We haven't specified that.
No. So I mean, I think it's a good question actually. That so we will obviously round when it comes into us if you provide it as a ridiculously long level of precision. But I think probably 2 or more decimal places would be acceptable. So it depends how you're calculating it. If you've got a particular system restriction, but
okay, thank you.
Obviously, hopefully you hit the SLA all the time, so it's an irrelevant question because it's 1.00. But
conscious of time. Any final thoughts? Any final questions from anyone?